for example. And under the hood, it does exactly what I just showed you in YQL. And once it's been loading, it actually gives you the keywords back. Come on. Okay. So you can take anything from the web, any data from the web, and actually use YQL to filter it down to some sensible needs. This can be quite interesting if you want to build something quickly. We had, for example, the Football World Cup some time ago. And what was interesting about this one was that The Guardian releases this wonderful data blog. And the newspaper in England, they have these big spreads every Saturday where they have a lot of information for you, and they give out the data for you for free on the web to use. And that actually makes a lot of sense for me as a data guy, because I actually want to show something. And I think our wireless is leaving us again here. This is not fun. Okay, there you go. So what they did, for example, they gave me the World Cup statistics, every match and every player in data. And they put this information out as nice graphs and give you cool things about this. But in the end, they also give you the World Cup data on Google Docs. And what do I do with that? So I went to Google Docs and actually took the data and then put it out for me on my own as CSV. So I've got, okay, these are all things that are not like that. Search Docs, World Cup data, there we go. So I have this spreadsheet now in Google that I saved for myself, and then I say just share it, and share it as CSV with the world. Now you only use as my only copy. Okay, when you put it out as CSV, then you can put it inside of YQL, and I've done that on my, I explained that on my blog where they. This is also still loading. This is not good. So, and then I have a statement like this: select star from CSV, where URL is spreadsheets.google.com, like all the stuff that I've done there, and I can name the columns. So I can try this out in the Yahoo console now. And this is how easy it is to actually show people off what you're doing with YQL. You just put a link there and it opens up in the console for you, and you can get this information. So I took all this World Cup data from a spreadsheet on Google and actually just gave it a columns, and then I can start filtering it. So this is all the information right now. If I only want to have like the team of France, I can say and team equals France, and then I filter it down to that information. So I have all the news about the FIFA World Cup during the World Cup free from The Guardian, using Google's storage, and hey, I'm happy to use Google servers rather than mine because I don't want to pay for that traffic, and using YQL to convert and actually filter this information. So all I had to do was build an interface for it. So, and I've done that, called this FIFA 2010 here, using another free system, which is YUI, which I'm going to show you in a second. And now you have this information as an interactive element. So I can say how many shots have been done by a player. So the young player from Ghana was the one with the most. And then you can filter down and say like, okay, who's done less, and you get more and more players out there. And then you can say, give me only the team of France, for example. And that gives me only the team of France. Then I can click each of these players and I get the statistics of all of them. I can filter by type. I can filter by other country. And I did not have to do any of that filtering and converting and anything for myself because I use YQL. So all I do under the hood is, if you look into Firebug and you got your NAT status open, then you can actually see if I click on that, do an exception R here. Oh, it's inactive, hang on. So, I think if I click that, I get new systems every single time. So, why isn't that panel alone? What's going on there? What are we doing? Anyways, under the hood, I just call YQL to get this information out there. And I built this interface during the World Cup, and it made a few newspapers, and people think I'm a great developer. I'm not. I'm using the web. I'm using YQL to take data and store it somewhere else and filter it and make great interfaces with that, because I got time to build the interface rather than having to think about how do I read that HTML, how do I understand that. So, of course, next thing, when you say, okay, we give you interesting. We give you the all the Yahoo APIs. We give you the data of the web. Not enough. What about other systems? There's this wonderful link here called Show Community Tables. And if you click on that, you will see that the number 160 of tables that you have, all of a sudden goes up to a number of 996. So now I've got 996 APIs to choose from. And instead of just having only the Yahoo ones, I now have Amazon, I've got Google, I've got Microsoft, I've got all kind of other languages in there, Delicious, I've got Ericsson Labs, Facebook, I've got Foursquare. So the whole web, every API that you've seen before on programmable web is now available for you in this format. So I can take, for example, instead of doing a search term extract on the CNN.com homepage, on the CNN.com headlines, I can actually translate them. So select star from Google Translate, where Q in the other statement and target, and I don't need the filtering anymore, and target equals, let's see if the natural thing, French. So now, CNN.com goes to the page, takes their HTML, cleans up their HTML, only gives me the links back, gets rid of all the HTML of the links, and under the hood calls Google Translate for every single link it finds and gives me the information back. That's why it takes a bit of a while. Your server will probably time out with that, because Google Translate tells you, like, after hitting it 50 times, like, no, what are you doing here? Whereas the Yahoo server, they're like, hey, you're a friend, you're in the same co-location, it's all fine. And you see how many times under the hood here it actually has called the Google Translation API. And now all of a sudden we've got CNN.com homepage headlines in French. They didn't know that exists. I didn't know how to do it. I just used two different tables in YQL to do that kind of information. And you can do all kind of funky stuff with that. So probably that will be broken from here as well. But I built this wonderful interface called Guhubi for a friend of mine. She's in university, and she was annoyed that Google, Yahoo, and Bing have different search results. And she had to have 20 tabs open with Google, Yahoo, Bing, and then see who's got the best stuff going on. So what that one now does, it actually has Google, Yahoo, and Bing next to each other, and you can actually click on it and preview it in the same page without ever having to leave that page. So I built a little interface of like 3 search engines without having to authenticate with any of them, without having to understand their APIs. I just used the YQL statement and put a bit of an interface on top of it. And you can do that as well. Actually, it's quite funny because there is, if you want to see how that was done, there is a search mashup video on Vimeo.com where I uploaded the whole thing, starting it from scratch in YQL in 24 minutes, 60 seconds. And you can do that as well. Because anybody who knows a bit of YQL, a bit of SQL, knows how to write a bit of HTML, can actually build this system. So that takes ages to load here, so we're not going to go for that. But that's the kind of interface that you can build with these kind of systems, because you don't have to know about the API calls. Once you're happy with your YQL statement, all you have to do down here is copy this URL and put it in a browser, or put it in your Ruby script, put it in your JavaScript, put it in your Python script, put it in your .NET solution, and you get the data back as XML. Because YQL in itself is a data endpoint that you just have to send that query to. And that to me is just, that's a unique offering. Nobody has that. Google offers me to store my data. Amazon offers me to have virtual servers and to store my data, but we're the only ones right now that offer a system like that allows you to filter the data off the web and build a new system on top of it. And this to me is what the web should be going for. You shouldn't think about interface, you shouldn't think about like, I take something from here, put it there, something there, build something new. And this is how easy as it should be, because that's what the web for me is. And YQL empowers me actually to do that. So where do these clever things come from? All of a sudden I've got Google in there. So what's happening there? How did that come to be there? So if you take a look at the tables, if you go for Google, for example, here, and you look at Google search, which I'm having here right now, you can look at the source code of that. And the source code of that is actually only a XML document. So if you proper look at the XML, all you have to do is tell us what where the API is, and then we put it in YQL for you. So Paul Tarjan, who was the original author of SearchMonkey, who now works for Facebook, actually went through the Google documentation, in this documentation URL here, wrote a sample query saying select star from table where query is pizza, gave us a path which gets returned, and it says that the data comes back as JSON, and then the URL that under the hood YQL should call, which is ajaxgoogleapis.com services search and so on and so forth. Then there's a paging model in there to do like a 1 to 10 paging, and then all the keys that are possible. Q, HL, which is the language, GL, which is the locale, I think, and a hard-coded API key. That's actually naughty. This is just him doing it wrong. If you want your API to be in there and you want to give us a key to monitor the access through, we can actually hide that key so the end world will not be able to see it. YQL caches the data for 15 minutes and actually accesses your server only in a certain quota. So every end user has 10,000 hits an hour, then he gets blocked for 15 minutes, and 100,000 a day. If you authenticate with OAuth first to YQL, you can get much bigger access points, so we can also give you more access to systems that you want to. So as a data provider, if I want to have an API, I don't need a server farm. I don't need anything out there. All I need to do is actually write an XML schema and put it on GitHub. So there's a repository on GitHub called YQL tables, and that one has all these tables that I just showed in them. And all you have to do is to get your system in there is write a table like that, the XML schema documentation on the YQL homepage, and then get this information in there. And this is where you can read the source code of all of them if you want to learn about something as well. So, for example, Craigslist is a thing in America where you can get free things. Craigslist did not have a result set. So, Craigslist search is not an API that exists. But what Craigslist has is an RSS output for the search. So all I have to do is select star from RSS, blah blah blah, to get the system into that. So if you look at that source code, that's even easier, because all it actually says, it points me to a URL location, where location and type are actually parameters, and the keys are possible are location, type, and query. So this location becomes that location, query becomes the query at the end of it, and type becomes this type. So if I look at the demo that he wrote here, is select star from Craigslist search for location is sfbay, and so on and so forth. And under the hood, it called sfbay craigslist.org search format RSS, query is Schwinn, which is the query here, location is sfbay, and the type is SSS. So that's how easy it is to get a system into YQL and to do something with it. And that's why we have 996 tables in there, which people just wrote in their free time and said like, okay, now Google Translate is in there. Now Microsoft Bing is in there, because it makes sense to be part of that whole system. And I've been using it for a year now to build all my stuff, and it's just amazingly powerful. And I've done things for the UK government with that, for example, UK house prices. This one filters everything through YQL to give you information about house prices in England. And again, I had time for the interface because the data, putting the data as a CSV format, actually worked through YQL quite easily. So I'd say rugby, for example, see the house prices there. Load this. And then I got my information here. And this one was actually sponsored by the government. They showed it in every newspaper. And again, I did not have to do much work because YQL did all the filtering for me before that. All of this stuff is on GitHub, so all the demos that I'm showing and now showing later Here's on GitHub under Code Poet, COD.